Good afternoon, everyone. Like what others did, we're also gonna talk about the piece by Scott Turnberry entitled The Grammar Lesson. In your screen are my group mates Kevin, Glendale, yours truly, and Ronaldo. So are you guys ready? For question number 1, did the poem match your expectation after reading the title? How would you describe the mood of the tone of the poem? For question number 2, how did the piece make you feel as a student or as a future English teacher? Okay, from the title itself, the grammar lesson. I already thought that the poem is all about grammar, and for that, I described the mood of the poem as quite straightforward and amazingly unique, yet detailed. The good thing about here is that you can really picture what the teacher in the poem is doing because it really does happen in real life teaching situation. And for the all-in-all mood of the poem, I believe it is strict and realistic. As a student, I was stunned because the scenes in the poem is like a picture perfect of what is really happening in the real world. It depicts the relationship of us, the students, and our teachers inside the classroom. And as a future educator, or a future English teacher rather, the piece made me somewhat excited about my future self. I imagine myself like teaching in the near future, standing in front of my future students, and simply doing the thing that I always dreamed of doing. I also noticed that the poem somehow screamed power, a power in which a teacher holds inside the classroom. Like, for example, when the teacher is speaking, everyone listens. Every little move, calculated or not, makes a difference.
Good afternoon to everyone. I am George and I'm going to answer questions number 3 and 4. So the third question is, did the scenarios in the poem remind you of your English classes? And do you think your own English classroom soon would also be the same? Why or why not? So the answer is yes. The scenarios in the poem remind me of my English classes when I was in high school because learning grammar is not easy. It's quite difficult. That's why I very much relate to the scenario in which it uses some unfamiliar words that makes me struggle to learn. And based on the scenarios in the poem, I think that in the future I will be teaching the same because I would like to encourage and develop my future students focus on learning grammar. Learning grammar may help their vocabulary. My English classroom soon will have a great impact on changes because every single student can make a difference. And for fourth question, do you agree with the poet's claim about how language learners are taught? And how do you think should students be taught grammar? The answer is all children deserve to be able to use language with intention and effect for any purpose and in all circumstances. Indeed, their capacity to do so is what they are assessed on every day at school. So if teachers don't teach what the school is assessing, we are being negligent. And I am agree with the poet's claim about how language learners are taught. And I think that the students should be taught in grammar in a way that uses authentic examples and grammatical terms, but explain them through examples so they can be effectively understood. Learning by doing is the most effective way to adapt and learn grammar. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Glendale Beldi Mendoza from the Group 5, and at this moment, I will be answering two questions, question 5 and 6. Question number 5 is, do you agree with the moral, the lesson that the poet wanted to say? Why or why not? Basically, I strongly believe that English language learners are sometimes unable to converse when English is not their mother tongue. Like, for example, a person who is a native speaker of Japanese will surely struggle with language barriers because the dominance of English has created considerable bias. The mere fact that sometimes you cannot be perfect when communicating in English, but to do so. Question number 6 is, how do you assess your knowledge of a grammar at this point in time? Do you think that the current proficiency level in grammar now is attributed to how your teacher taught grammar lessons. Grammar is one of the important language in integrating other knowledge and skills. It turns out that to surely assess knowledge of a grammar is to foresee the most authentic way to master the rules of English language usage and convention, and that is to review the use of those skills in a piece of writing. And there is no question that that's how our teacher taught us about grammar or assessing grammar knowledge. Thank you everyone for listening. God bless.
Once again, good afternoon, everyone. So, I am Ronaldo Simeon, the last reporter, and I will answer the last question. List down 5 rules in teaching grammar that you think might be helpful to future English teacher. Okay, rule number 1. Know the parts of speech. Sounds basic, right? But parts of speech is crucial in any language grammar because they serve as building blocks for grammar, particularly in domain of syntax. In fact, while grammar is blueprint for languages, the semantics expressions, both oral and written, are extremely reliant on the many elements of speech. Parts of speech then are like lifeblood for a normal language, in that a lack of adequate words to express parts of speech would render spoken or written words meaningless. Um, may inattendan akong webinar last year, and then ang sabi kasi doon is, know your parts of speech, because parts of speech is not basic, but it is a lifeblood to all languages. And when you know the parts of speech, you can construct your own sentence. After you can construct your own sentence, you can create a paragraph. After paragraph, a series of paragraph. And after a series of paragraph, you can create your own book. Rule number 2, improve vocabulary. Reading illustrated literature such as comic books and children's books will provide us graphical clues to aid in the learning of new words. Furthermore, if we are reading popular literature, there's a strong possibility that we will be able to discover a translation into our native tongue. Movies are a fun way to learn new vocabulary. You have the benefit of visual clues similar to reading illustrated novels, while also hearing some terms that is generally spoken. Turn on close-on captioning in English to combine our hearing and reading skills. This might be a good approach to see the words being said aloud. Rule number 3, talk, just talk. Sometimes when we read pieces we have written, our brains fills in the gaps of missing information. We do not always catch our own mistakes when we proofread. Reading what you have written out loud, someone else, is an efficient way to evaluate whether or not you have used correct grammar. You are more likely to notice your errors if you read the content aloud rather than in your head to yourself. Also, studies shows that even minimal social interaction will boost our mood and confidence. Rule number 4. Do not trust your grammar checker. This rule was not taught in elementary school, at least in our generation. It is common knowledge that spell checkers miss one thing. For example, there and there. There, Their, and there, There. And another, 222, Too, Unfortunately, spell checkers frequently fix what is not wrong when it comes to grammar. This is virtually always the case. A spell checker rarely recognizes a word spelled correctly. For example, apostrophe s added to it. Instead, it may advise that you use the plural form. Simply double check the spelling of the ordinary term using dictionaries, and triple check that you are using possessive correctly. And finally, rest certain that for one time being, you are wiser than your computer. Last rule, and the most important of all, continue learning. Learning is essential to our existence. Just like food nourishes our bodies, information and continued learning nourishes our mind. Lifelong learning is an indispensable tool to every career and situation. Today, continuous learning forms a necessary part in acquiring critical thinking skills and discovering new ways of relating people from different cultures. To live a life without continuous learning is unthinkable. Remember this: do not bring yourself down. Nobody wants to get you up. As we end our report, we want you to reflect on this. This is from Albert Einstein. Once you stop learning, you start dying. That's all. Thank you, everyone.